Let's talk about this message. This is a real message I received from a former classmate of mine from university. For privacy's sake, I won't be showing her username or actual name, but for this video, let's just call her Al. Now, for some background, I used to work with Al for a year, because we were both members of the cabinet of the University Design Club. I was in charge of designing the posters and the social media posts, like these. I also designed the club's logo. I will be the first to admit that we didn't really interact much outside of the club. Personally, I didn't want to, because I not only had other projects going on at the time, but I also knew from the start that our personalities just weren't going to be compatible. I was much more quiet and reserved, while Al was significantly more outgoing and loud. But we managed to work together fairly well, or at least I thought we did. I kept my relationship with her purely professional, and I expected her to do the same. And after we graduated, I thought that was the end of that. So when Al messaged me at 2 in the morning, nearly 2 weeks after graduation, I assumed it was because she needed a file for something. Instead, I was greeted with a wildly unprofessional and disrespectful attack on my personality and my graphic design capabilities, which surprised me because she'd never expressed any kind of problem while we were working together. Which, first and foremost, brings me to my first bit of advice. Talk to your team. If you have a problem with one of your coworkers or classmates, tell them. They might not realize what's happening, and effective communication is the key in a workplace environment. You can't fix a problem you don't know about. You don't have to be best friends, but the less friction in the workplace there is, the better everyone is going to work. This whole message could have been avoided if Al had told me that there was an issue. She likely wouldn't have felt the need to send an unprofessional message like this, and I probably wouldn't be making this video. But hey, sometimes talking to the problem person doesn't work. In that case, move on to tip number 2. Talk to your supervisor or professor. If talking to the person you're having issues with doesn't change anything, talk to your higher-ups. Often, people will listen more to those in a higher rank than them, either because they want to keep their job, or because they don't want to be written up and have that mark on their record. Or alternatively, your supervisor could move you to a different team, and you'd no longer have to deal with the problematic person. I made it clear to my professor at the time that I wasn't thrilled with working with Al, though it wasn't enough to make me leave the team entirely or stop working on the projects I was being given. I was told to keep things professional, so I did. Now, obviously, this would have ended at the first stage if Al had talked to me while we were actually working together about whatever it was she was having a problem with. I still don't actually know what the problem was. She never really specified. But since this video is about how to write a professional message to someone you don't like, let's break down what she sent me. Let's start with the introduction. Probably the only thing she did right in this. When sending a message to anyone, whether over Discord, where this was, or over email, you need to open with a polite and welcoming tone. You don't want to come across as aggressive or impolite, because the tone you open with determines the tone of the entire message. Usually, anyway. Let's take a closer look at what she wrote for her intro, shall we? Right off the bat, she opens with, "Hey T, congrats on graduating." This is a good introduction, because it's a friendly greeting followed by an acknowledgement of a major achievement. This sets a tone of friendly conversation and lets the person you're messaging know that this isn't meant to be an attack. Now, you don't need to acknowledge the achievement if you don't want to, but it's good practice to do so because it will make you seem more welcoming. Sadly, that's where the positives of this message end. Al here utilizes a manipulation tactic by opening with a friendly introduction before then attempting to slam me down into the dirt with her next lines. This is actually why I originally thought this message was sent in mistake, and that she was high on something or drunk. It wouldn't have been the first time. Always watch out for people like this, because oftentimes this is just a projection, and they're trying to take someone they feel jealous of down to their level, hence the manipulation tactic and messaging out of the blue like this. Let's take a closer look at the main body of Al's message. The first sentence can be deleted entirely. There's no point in making such an exaggerated comment over who you work with, especially if you no longer work with that person. You will work with people you don't like or agree with. That's just a fact of life. You'll never be best friends with everyone, and you really shouldn't try to be. The important factor is whether or not you remain professional throughout the time that you work with them, and especially after you leave. You never know who might be your boss one day. Instead of making an exaggerated claim, Al should have remained professional and said something more along the lines of, I felt the need to let you know that I sadly did not enjoy our time working together. I felt that there was too much friction between us to be an effective team. This not only continues the friendly tone from the introduction, but it provides an explanation for why this message might have been sent. Ideally, this message wouldn't have been sent in the first place, but let's pretend we went through the steps I mentioned before and nothing changed. It is vital to keep a professional tone when messaging a former coworker or classmate that you didn't like, because there is never a 0% chance that your message will remain solely between you and the person you're messaging. That could mean the person showed your message to their friends, their coworkers, their family, even potential job opportunities, maybe even posting it onto social media, where it will never disappear and will follow you for the rest of your career. Stay safe on the internet, folks. Let's move on to the next couple sentences. Here, Al attacks my personality and my graphic design style. Let's start with the graphic design style. This line was what confused me the most, I think, because Al here wasn't a graphic design student. She was product design, which was a completely different set of classes that I had no real interest in. Al is an artist, I'll give her that, but her art style is more akin to realism and fine arts, while mine is very obviously influenced by Japanese manga and more cartoonish styles. I mean, I'm a tiefling, for crying out loud. And she never complained about my designs while I was working with her as a member of the cabinet, so I was very surprised when she said she didn't like it. Not to mention, my professors found my graphic design more than adequate enough to award me with a degree. Either way, she could have worded this in a more professional manner. For example, I know I never said anything about your designs during our time working together, but I wish there had been a different style you had gone with. This acknowledges that Al never spoke up during the time that it mattered, and potentially opens up a conversation about what she would have preferred instead. Obviously, there's nothing to be done about it now, but designers are always up for a chat about different styles and the impacts that they make. Let's move on to her attack on my personality. She tries to claim that it's not cute or quirky, which, yeah, obviously it's not meant to be. And as such, it makes me a terrible person to associate with. Now, obviously, not everyone is going to jive well with me. I'm stubborn, sarcastic. I don't try to make friends with everyone I meet, but I do try to stay polite and respectful until I'm shown reasons to do otherwise. With Al, I made no efforts to be her friend because I knew our personalities would cause too many sparks to fly. But I kept things professional because we had work to finish. If she truly felt I was a horrible person to associate with, then she should have either told me what the problem was, asked our professor to talk to me, or left the club. There was no one holding her in her position but herself, and it was her choice to stay and continue working with me. Instead of calling me a terrible person for being myself, Al should have said something more like this. I sadly don't think we worked together as well as we could have. This has no reference to personalities whatsoever, which is far more professional than trying to shoehorn an entirely unrelated aspect of the person into a message about the workplace. It's important when you're messaging someone to stay on topic, as that can prevent confusion and excessively long-winded emails. Not to mention, if you insult someone's personality for how you perceive it, or how they choose to present themselves to you, because let's be honest, everyone has masks that they switch between during the day, depending on who they're with, then it looks incredibly poor on your character as a person and can seriously harm your future prospects. Finally, let's take a look at the last line of the main body. Al insists that I fix these before I ruin the university design department's reputation, but fails to specify what these are, nor does she seem to understand that by sending such a message like this to me, it's not me who's tarnishing the department's reputation. Her message reflects incredibly poorly on the design department, specifically the product design portion, because she was clearly never instructed on how to properly write a professional email to someone. Hopefully this video will give her some help. Instead of claiming that I will single-handedly destroy the entire design department's reputation just by designing, she should have sent something more like this. I hope to see improvements to your work in the future as you continue to design. This is a supportive tone, and not only tells the person that you have no animosity towards them, but also gives them something to aim for, as improvements are always happening. This shows the person you're messaging that you want to see them get better, even if you don't want to work with them again. Sometimes people are better friends than coworkers. Now, last but not least, let's take a look at the sign-off at the end. Once again, this is one of the only things Al here got right. She signed off with a positive note, wishing me luck in my future endeavors, though she likely meant it sarcastically in this instance. This is actually a good way to end a message to someone, however, as it's professional and friendly. In this instance, it's a good send-off because clearly Al has no intention of messaging me, and hasn't at the time of this recording. This is a good way to leave off with someone because their last memory of you won't be negative. Just try not to be passive-aggressive about it. So, now that we've broken down the severely unprofessional message and made some improvements, let's take a look at what we came up with. Hey T, congrats on graduating. I felt the need to let you know that I sadly did not enjoy our time working together. I felt that there was too much friction between us to be an effective team. I know I never said anything about your designs during our time working together, but I wish there had been a different style that you had gone with. I sadly don't think we worked together as well as we could have. I hope to see improvements to your work in the future as you continue to design. Good luck, Al. This message is significantly better than what Al originally sent. It's honest, it's to the point, and it doesn't make any personal attacks on anyone. Most importantly, it's professional. Had I woken up to this message instead of the original, which caused emotional whiplash, then I would have responded like so. Hi Al. Thank you, congrats on graduating as well. I'm sorry you didn't think we worked well together, but I look forward to seeing what you work on in the future. Best, T. In conclusion, don't write an angry message attacking people's personalities or capabilities. It only looks bad on you and ruins your own reputation. If you really feel the need to write a message to someone who made you angry or who you really didn't like working with, write it, but don't send it. Make that your first draft and come back to it when you've calmed down again to make some edits. Or better yet, if you have the option, just don't message them.